Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Young and Awakening podcast. This is a podcast series for and about spiritually awakening teenagers. But today it's going to be for everyone because we're going to talk about crystals. And I have Laura Summers here with me today, and she knows everything about crystals. And Laura Summers is a dear friend of mine for many years now. I really love her. And one of the things I love about her is also that she's very passionate about ancient wisdom, about spirituality, and about crystals. And then she's also a university professor, actually teaching young people. But we're not going to talk about that so much here. We're going to dive into the etheric wisdom that she has, the esoteric wisdom that she has about the crystals and how they came here on Earth, where they come from, what they mean to us, what they mean to her, how we can use it in our everyday life to gain balance and to really reconnect to our own wisdom. So Laura Summers, welcome here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I was just so excited when you asked me to be a guest. And I wanted to say to the young, beautiful souls that are with us today, that I felt my most self when I was a teenager. And I feel like that was my call. You know, you mentioned briefly that I'm an educator, and I worked with teens for many, many years. And that's, I was like, I wanted to be connected with them because that was when I felt like I had no fear and I was fully remembering all that I was. And so I just want to empower your guests to believe in themselves and to know that they do know. And they have this tremendous inner wisdom that the rest of us are now trying to remember, in terms of what we've forgotten. And they just need to tune in to themselves. And crystals, I think, are a wonderful way to do that.
Yeah, so that was just what I was thinking. That is really how you help yourself every day to connect to your wisdom using the crystals. So can you share a bit about the background of crystals? What do you think is important for us to know about crystals? And do you have any with you?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I know you sometimes take them in your suitcase when you go traveling.
They're all around me. And it is a funny story because when I've always loved crystals. In fact, my wonderful husband started buying me jewelry and figured out, yeah, I like jewelry. But so little did he know, he was buying me crystals as jewelry sets. And that became just this gift of love that he was giving me. And so that was my introduction to crystals, not really understanding the power within them. But then I started wearing certain crystals like before a job interview or when I was doing a presentation. I knew to pick a certain color. So I'm wearing a yellow canary quartz today. And that for me has always been a really empowering crystal. And so I tend to pick what I'm going to wear in terms of crystals based upon what energy I'm trying to bring forward. So another popular one is amethyst. And so I wear amethyst quite a bit because that's, to me, my spiritual connection. And that's also a power stone for me. And then in connection, I keep an amethyst stone near me just because that also keeps me connected to my inner self. Wow, so that was how I got started. And then during the pandemic, it's very, I don't even, we talked about this at this time. I wasn't sure how it started, but I met with actually an astrologist, and she said, you need to find a cat's eye, not a tiger eye, but a cat's eye. And so I was like, well, I don't know where to find those. And so I reached out to a friend. That's
the name of the stone, right?
Yes, that's the name of the stone. And so I reached out to a friend who connected me to another friend, and that opened up this whole world of crystals. So this friend of mine, she owns a sacred healing apothecary in Pennsylvania. And so I started buying crystals from her, and it just, it opened up a deeper connection with them, because what I found was that each crystal, inside each crystal is a guardian. And so each crystal has its own personality and has this wisdom that's been stored in the earth for eons. And what we're now finding out, what we're now remembering, is that crystals have been with us and were used in, when you go back to lands that have been lost. So those of you that are familiar with Atlantis or Lemuria, like these were, crystals were used quite commonly, and they were used to store and keep safe information. And if you think about how we use crystals in modern day technology, we use crystals in our computers and our watches. And there's so many technological advances that we use the crystal energy. And so on a day-to-day basis, we are surrounded by crystals. And oftentimes we don't think anything of it. But if we really tune in to each individual crystal, they have messages for us. And we are sharing our essence with them, just as they are sharing their essence with us. And it just is a reminder of how connected we are to Mother Earth, and that as humans, we are meant to be grounded in this earth, and we're meant to work with the crystals that are of this earth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure there's some of you that have remembrance of earlier lifetimes in those places, or simultaneous lifetimes. It's all happening now, right? So,
right.
And really can connect with this feeling of what crystals meant to you back then, because some of you might be sitting here listening to this and really feel this longing for the crystals, or really feel this deep connection. So Laura, are there any specific crystals that you feel, now you already talked about the one you were wearing and the amethyst, are there any other crystals that you have with you today that you feel guided to share about what the meaning of them are to those who are with us today?
Yeah, and I want to share also that for each individual, when you wake up in the morning, you might be called to pull forward a certain crystal because of the energies of that day. And you don't actually have to have the crystal with you. You could be looking on a website, you could see it in a shop window. It's the physical, while it's nice to have them with us physically, the energy is there even through the pictures. So even when I'm sharing with you today, there might be a particular one that I talk about that I have been called to talk to you about. So what happens is that in the middle, while I'm sleeping, I work with the crystals and heal them if they've been mistreated. So I have particular crystals that came forward today and said, based upon my audience, and all of you out there, there might be one that is in particular of interest to you. So I'm going to start with, this is a golden healer. And so you'll notice that it's also a pyramid. So a pyramid, the shape, also influences the illumination of this particular crystal. And so I think that helps to know is that sometimes it's just really the shape in particular. You might be called to a particular shape in addition to the type of crystal. And so this is definitely a magnifier. This is with your more of your third chakra, if you are connecting to chakras. And so I think that's important to know too, is each crystal, they go along with your different chakras. And there might be times when you want to really ground in something that is a lower chakra because you need that grounding. And there are times when, like with the amethyst, where you want to go into your higher chakras. And that's, we can talk a little bit more about that too. But I just wanted to also share that this shape, these pyramids, they have been with us since Egypt. And that's how they harness, because of the point, they're harnessing this vibrational energy. And that we've known this for a really long time. And that's why the pyramids were shaped the way they were.
And may I ask, Laura, which one is the third chakra? If there's someone out there who doesn't know chakras.
So that's your you have your root chakra, and then you have your sacral chakra, and then you have your solar plexus.
So it's the solar plexus.
Solar plexus. Yeah. And here's a cellulite that's also related to your solar plexus, and this is communication. And so if you're highly empathetic, oftentimes you're working through healing your solar plexus as well as your sacral chakra. And so you'll find that just holding this, you're going to feel that vibration. You're going to feel this pulsing. And sometimes if I've had a day when I've been interacting with a lot of people and I'm feeling drained because of that empathic pool, I will literally just place this on my stomach and allow the crystal to heal me. Because that's that connection, is it's healing energy going into my chakras, going into my energy field. So I think that's something that it may sound crazy, but I have found it really feels soothing. It really re-energizes me, it balances me out, and I think that's something that we have to talk about.
Yeah, that is so important. And it's so important to allow it to be a part of our reality, because it is a potential for all of us to be so closely connected with the energies, and especially the energies in what we used to use as power artifacts, power objects, or that are in relation to us in one way or another. So,
and I wanted to share, I went for a walk this past weekend, and so crystals find me. And I purposely, some people belong where they get crystals every month, or they belong to some type of program, like a subscription. And I did for a while, and then I was disappointed because I was like, I didn't necessarily feel like the crystals I was getting were the ones that were, they were just put in a box. They weren't thought about in terms of that connection. And so I wait till I just happen to see a crystal, and if it calls to me, then I pick it up. So this one is a very unique crystal. So I am prone to appreciating crystals that are raw. These are the ones that are taken straight from the earth and not polished. And so you'll find polished stones are really popular, and people can find those very commonly. These are a little more unique. These aren't as common. And this is a Druzy crystal. And what this does is this helps to awaken positive self-love and to evoke joy. And so if you're feeling the challenges around us right now, and as the world is awakening, we need to pull in as much positive energy as we can. And so the earth is here to assist us with that.
Mm-hmm. And you can place it on your body, and you can sleep with it under your pillow, or you can have it in your hand during the day, in your pocket during the day. There's many ways to do this, right?
Yes. So I tend to sleep with the crystal under my pillow. You also, but you want to be aware if for some reason then that disrupts your sleep. It could be the crystal that you're choosing is more of an activator and isn't going to soothe you through the night. So you want to just be aware of which one you're choosing. Rhodandite is one that I sleep with because it's about self-love. And so and you can see the heart shape with this, but this is one that it helps you connect the heart with the mind, and it assists with being heart-centered. And so I tend to, when I sleep with this one, I have really sweet dreams, and it's just, once again, it's very soothing. And I feel like with everything that's going on around us, anything we can do to create that soothing energy is helpful. This other one is a labradorite, and I want to show you, I have a couple different, this one is just a beautiful, see the sparkle?
Yeah. And I
has a
can
nice sparkle.
Say that I think I will ask you, Laura, to put down the names afterwards, so we will leave it in the text so you guys can go and find them yourself if you need any of these.
Yes,
you probably do.
Here's a tower. So this one I have in heart shapes. I have it in a tower. I went ahead and picked up this other one, you know, with just the flat, but still the natural, the raw, because this was one I use a lot. And this is connects you psychically. This brings you closer to your visions. It is connected to the third eye chakra. So I have a smaller one that I put on my third eye chakra, and I use this. It's psychic protection, but it also brings clarity to that psychic ability.
And this was a labradorite too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just, and that's what I wanted to show is that.
Yeah.
And for those that are just listening, you know, these all come in so many different shapes. And so if you were to ask, well, which one's right? I would say, well, what one feels right to you?
Yeah. So that was some of Go ahead.
When I do crystal weavings, what I'm doing with the crystal weaving is I'm sharing a message from my guides that are connecting in partnership with your guides. And our guides are telling us which crystals resonate with you on a particular day for a particular reason. And that's the message that I share, is what's the deeper message to help you with your day, to support a decision you're making, just really to, and oftentimes I don't know what's going on with my client, but whatever comes through in the message is what they needed to hear. And it's the same with the crystals. So I never choose, like I may choose the same crystal for two different people, but they mean entirely different things to them. And whatever is meant to be said is what the guides share to say. So that is about, once again, trusting your inner self, trusting your guides, knowing that we're always being divinely guided.
Yeah, so that was actually the question I wanted to ask you. How do you know what they mean, the crystals? Because that's very individual to each person working with crystals, I believe. That, do you read about them? Do you feel it in your body? Do you channel it, speaking, writing? How do you?
Yeah, I have found it's so interesting you say that, because I will wake up in the morning if I know I'm channeling for someone, and I will start pulling the crystals that I have. And then I will take in a channeled message, and I do that auditorily. Is that a word, auditorily?
You can use it and say that it is.
Verbally. So I verbally channel the message. My guides are the illuminaries, and they're from the 9th dimension. And so they'll share with me whatever the message is. I don't remember the message, so I can go back and listen to it, but I never remember what I say. And so that's always been it's a trip, because you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And then I'll look up what the crystal meant. So there's some that I commonly know because I use them for myself. But there's oftentimes where I won't remember a particular property around the crystal. And then once I've given the message and I look up what it means, that's when I find out more. Yeah. So I always find that very intriguing. I just let my my clairsentience guide me to the crystal. I don't say, well, I think they need an amethyst for spiritual connection. I don't do that. I really let my clairsentience guide me to that crystal, and then I look up what it means.
Yeah. So now you spoke about two things that we want to know more about, and I'm sitting with a crystal here too.
Yes, that's good. I don't know, which one do you have?
So it's an amethyst. I'm very connected to that. Yeah. So crystal weavings, that was one of the things we really want to know about, because one of the things that you already explained about it, it's a message for the receiver, the one who's asking questions or having this session with the crystal weaving. But also, I believe there's many of us who's listening who love this sharing with others, sharing on social media what we're doing. And I really love your crystal weavings, and the way you convey a message through an image and through a channeled message. So can you go more in depth about these crystal weavings, both what they mean, but also how visually do they appear, and what is it like, this form of expression to you? And Can you enlighten us a
Yeah,
bit?
I kind of started to mention it. They started coming through in spring of 2020. And at that time, I was sleeping with crystals. I had crystals all around me. Gosh, it sounds crazy when I talk about it, but I felt very comforted at that time, because at that time, that was when we were in we were all sequestered. We were just in our homes. And
Many
so
would have
as
loved knowing that was possible there. That could have helped them. So,
yeah, and
yeah.
I started giving messages to friends. Like I would wake up in the morning and I would assemble them into a composite, and I would take a picture. And I always connected with some type of stone, other stones, or feathers. Feathers are very popular. Feathers always tell me my angels are close. Seashells. And so I just started combining these elementals in these composites. And on Instagram, I would put out these little messages. So I would look at it and I'd say, okay, what does this mean? And a message would come through, and I'd type it out, and I'd post it under Be a Luminary on Instagram. And I would just share these little general messages. And then the more in-depth audio messages came for friends. And I was pairing them at first. I was using my oracle cards, and I was doing readings, but then I was pairing them with the crystals, and then sharing, in some cases, actually sharing the crystals with my friends so they could carry them around. But they also found that even carrying the picture around, that was when we realized, oh, we don't actually have to have the crystal, just even the image of it holds that frequency. And so I feel like that was, once again, just my guides coming through, using crystals as the medium, so to speak. And that anyone can tap into their own messages. It wasn't about me having the answers. Our answers are within. And sometimes holding that crystal and gazing into the crystal, you're having this communication with them, with the crystals. And I say them because oftentimes, I mean, they're all around me. So they're talking to me, and I hear it as a kind of as a hum. And that's how the messages, then I translate them into, I speak English, so I translate them into English, but they'd be translated into our human language. I've discovered sound healing, and there's crystal bowls. So I've been doing a lot more with listening to crystal bowls, and the sound healing in combination with actually holding that crystal raises my vibration as well.
That's so beautiful. So really, if people want to do that themselves, that would be like also about the weavings. It would be like going into themselves, yes, listening within. What is the message for me today? What do I feel drawn to? Taking those and placing them in a beautiful, to them, beautiful way, and then photographing them like you did, and then sharing that message. You have many ways of doing, spreading your wisdom. I know that because I know you so well. So you're very creative, and also have all this channel of writing or inspirational writing, and whatever way it comes through you. And I know about the Be Luminaries. And will you share more about them with us? And I also have some more questions. And like, you've been connected to crystals through lifetimes, and this is more as inspiration for our listeners. Like, what does it mean to have several lifetimes and have this deeper connection? Can you share a bit about that and that higher wisdom and connection you have?
I think I feel like this, in this particular lifetime right now, it was really important that I trust my inner self, and that I'm here to be heart-centered. And so for anyone that is highly sensitive, they may not always feel like that's a gift. And it's so easy when you put yourself out there to get hurt by situations, but that's all part of the magic as well, because in being as a child and as a teenager, being hurt actually led me back to myself. And then I was able to pull from this wisdom of lifetimes of that all I had to do was, in going within, is that we have the answers within, and that I didn't need to let anyone else hurt me. That if I stayed connected to myself and my heart, that I would better understand that they were those that were lashing out or those that were hurting me were in pain themselves, and that wasn't truly who they were. So, and Matilda, we've talked about this before. We're all ascended masters. We're here as ascended masters, and so it's remembering that in each of us, even if we're not always acting like it. So sometimes our personalities come through that human side of it, and that's part of the learning. And so what's beautiful is to be able to look at another soul, to look at another human, and to see the light within their eyes, to see the light within their heart. And crystals for me was that way of connecting with another human in that way, because there's always light in a crystal, the way they reflect in the sun. And I think that was just something, it was just a physical way of doing that for me, was making those connections.
That's so beautiful.
Did that make any sense?
It did. It was beyond my question. I think it meant so much more. Yeah, I love that personal share. And where did the luminary came in? So I think that was what the
so the luminaries, they're ninth dimensional beings. They're from the stars. So they've been with me for a long time, and their message has been that being from a star, the star seed, I'm not necessarily here with others exactly like myself, but that's okay. And I don't need to feel like I need to, I'm home. And so it's really important that I understood that I made this, in this lifetime, I made this agreement to be here. And that, in a sense, sometimes I know teenagers can sometimes feel this way, or at least I did as a teenager. Was like, I don't belong here. Like, I don't fit in. Like, where do I fit? I need to go home. And I didn't know where home was. And so the crystals have helped me in understanding that this is my home. And that by working with them, by loving them, that's all part of, the connection to Mother Earth. And so the illuminaries are here to remind us to simply be a luminary, like show your light, share your light. We're here to be lights. And that it only takes a few people. The more of us that can share our light and spread that's what's going to make a difference for planet Earth. That's what's going to heal and calm down a lot of what the turmoil we're seeing. Like, that part of the awakening is that eruption, is that turmoil. But what we're seeing is a reflection of our emotions in planet Earth. So if we want the storms to go away, if we want things to calm down and be peaceful, that's where we really need to center in ourselves and find that inner peace. And between the illuminaries and the crystals, I feel very peaceful.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful, Laura. And I feel it in my body when you're speaking. It's like the crystal helps you to find your home here, bring your home here, because many of us who are so connected with the stars and the higher realms, we are very peaceful souls, very loving souls, and we need to bring ourselves here, all of who we are here, and really embody that. And that is what the crystal helps us to do, is what I hear from you. And I not only hear it, I feel it in my body when you're speaking. That's really, really beautiful. So is there anything more that you want to share with us? Otherwise, I have one more question. that you feel?
Just the only other thing that's coming to mind is just to share that we all have our gifts, and not to feel like we have to hide those anymore. You know, that this is something that when I started doing crystal weavings, I started with having crystals just in my bedroom, and then they started spreading out amongst the other rooms in my home. And I was really nervous because I was like, my family's not into this. I mean, they, it's kind of like when someone pats you on the shoulder and say, it's okay, but they didn't get me at all. They're like, what are you doing with these crystals? But over time, because I was willing to share this and I was willing to have the crystals out and about, it became more of the accepted. And so it's so important. And that's the message that's speaking really clearly to me this morning. And why I agreed to talk with you is I get really nervous. I'm very self-conscious. I don't want, I was like, oh, people are, what are people going to think of me? And I was like, it doesn't matter what people think of me, because if I'm willing to put myself out there, then that's what brings our gifts forward. And that's what brings that love forward. And so I'm really, especially with young people, I don't want them to be afraid to put themselves out there. And I know that's really hard to do sometimes because we feel self-conscious or we're worried about what other people think. And I, say I'm a recovering perfectionist, but I just feel this is the time for us to be ourselves and to be heart-centered. And so I really just wanted to share that, shine your light.
Yeah, that's the best advice ever, Laura. That's so good. And if people want, feeding into my next question, if people want to have some help, the crystal help them with shining their light, how can they get more information from you? And also if you have some recommendation about how to start working with the crystals or where to look, are there any books? Are you offering something? What is there for them to, if they want to look more?
I would love to connect with anyone who feels called to working with crystals, and just, or want to have a conversation about what particular crystals are calling to them. They can find me through my website at lauraleesummers.com. And there's also crystalweaving.com, but which links you back to Laura Lee Summers. So it's all right there. They'll find my crystal weavings. They'll find a blog where I'll be sharing more. I do classes, podcasts. And so I just would love to have more conversations like this. I want people to feel welcome to ask questions. And I don't know everything. I'm always learning, but I really want to go back to, it's about the answers within. And so if I can help guide them to those answers within, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah. Are there any books that you can recommend if they're or any websites that you went to it when you started out with this? Is there anything, or maybe you just felt it all from within?
It really came from within. Like I said, I still to this day, I don't know how to pronounce all of the crystals that I use. And so I would say if they just start to do a search, you will find the sites that you're most attracted to. You'll find the ones that will give you, meaning to, like, if you have a question around, what I was trying to think of another one here, like a soda light, for example. I keep this close because it's connecting to writing. And as a writer, I feel like this is always on my desk. But you can, if you go to any crystal site, it'll be the one that you're supposed to be looking at. And I find that the information out there is very similar. I've never found one that contradicts each other. But what my guides told me is it wasn't about the common definition. It actually wasn't about, well, I can spiel off that this is my connection to writing. It's actually the particular crystal that I find, or the particular crystal that I look at, that's really going to be most connecting to me. And so that's where I really want to emphasize going back within and deciding, what does something mean to you?
So if you're in a store, you can feel it and hold it maybe, and then see if this feels right to you to hold. And
yes. And if you go to my website, I link you to where I most often purchase my crystals, and there's a discount code there. And in that, like, I will go through the pictures, and Krista, the owner of the apothecary, she is wonderful because she'll show you different ones, and you get to pick. Like, you can pick which one resonates with you. But that's where I knew, like, the crystal, the Druzy that I picked up this week. There were others around, but I knew that was the one. And that if I meditate with this and I really connect to it, this Druzy will tell me more about who he is. He's identifying as a he today. I'll learn more about that particular inner crystal.
That's so valuable information, Laura. I'm so happy you wanted to talk to us today. And I really know that everyone, all the crystal fanatics like me, is going to love this, what you just shared with us today. It has been so valuable. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
And to everyone listening, thank you for being with us today. And I'm looking forward to see you in our next podcast. Bye for now.